I'm about to say something that is going to totally wreck your mind. All right, so be prepared. I believe Jones is reestablishing culture. By hiring Schottenheimer, he's promising to bring back dominance and physicality in the run game. When you look at the Cowboys over the years, we've always been GOATs in rushing offenses.
The Cowboys' top ground gainer is number 43, Don Perkins. Don Perkins, the pride of the Cowboys, a clever, powerful runner, a back who can do it all.
We produce some of the greatest talents the league has ever seen.
The longest touchdown run from scrimmage in the history of the franchise. Look at the 60 yards, Herschel Walker. And he's under there somewhere.
That's our style of football. Physically imposing our will on teams.
Side receiver check.
Smith again. First down, Emmitt Smith.
Hamstring.
32. Emmitt Smith. Emmitt inside the 20. Moves again. Try Emmitt Smith. Touchdown.
Not this new evolution of passing mimics. Jones messed up when he tried to mimic the Shanahans of the world. We're the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. We do things our way.
Begins with Elliott breaking it into the secondary, and it's a foot race.
I'm not making any promises this year about how good the Cowboys will be this season, but here's what I will promise. If you watch this entire video, you will see Schottenheimer in a better light than you've ever seen him. Just give me a few minutes of your time.
In the end, what it's come down to is this. Brian Schottenheimer didn't even call plays for your Dallas Cowboys team last year. And you hired him as your head coach because somebody else that may have been more qualified, somebody else that may have been more capable, would have been too much for you to share.
Let me get straight to this. Who were you going to get? Who was out there? Kellen Moore, who has never been a head coach either, who, by the way, is only 35 years old. Look, unlike a lot of fans, I absolutely loved Kellen Moore. I think he's going to be a brilliant coach one day. Again, who? Oh, Pete Carroll, 73 years old Pete Carroll. The one who hadn't been relevant since 2020, the year Schottenheimer was his offensive coordinator and had his offense ranked 8th in the league. What happened after Schottenheimer left? His offense went from being 8th to 16th in the league. From being 12-4 to 7-10 and outside of the playoffs. Who were we going to get? Ben Johnson? No head coaching experience either. Johnson's teams as an offensive coordinator has laid duds in the postseason year after year. Yes, he has taken his offenses to the championship game, but so has Schottenheimer. Ben Johnson only has 3 years of experience of an offensive coordinator. Yes, outside of those 3 seasons, he's been around, but not at the table been around. He's been kind of in the back room. Schottenheimer has 14 years sitting at the table as an offensive coordinator.
We asked for this a long time ago. We ain't got to do nothing but play like a jet.
He's had the best seat in the room for years. He has a total of 28 years of experience in the National Football League when we add in his other assistant jobs. For Ben Johnson to get his first head coaching job with the Cowboys after only 3 years of coaching a major unit, I don't know. It just seems risky to me. Also, who are we fooling? Johnson was never coming to Dallas anyway, even if Jerry did want him. Going to Chicago was the smart move. Chicago is a bad team, has been that way for years. So if Chicago doesn't win next season, you really can't blame Johnson. The entire culture is going to be his scapegoat, trust me. Who were you going to get? What, Robert? The one who was ran out of New York City? Yeah, it probably wouldn't be a good idea. Let me throw some numbers at you. Since 2012, only 2 coaches known primarily for their defensive skills have won a Super Bowl. The majority of Super Bowl winning coaches, which is 34 since 1970, have been offensive minded. This suggests that hiring a true defensive coordinator as a head coach may not increase the chances of winning you a Super Bowl. Trends does matter.
Brady's back! That's your quarterback!
Since 2012, only 2 coaches known primarily for their defensive skills have won a Super Bowl. Even those are offensive guys if you put them in the right room. I guess my real question is why not Schottenheimer? What has been our main argument as fans over the last 4 years? The argument has been consistently one thing. Let's look at the years. In 2016, he had one of the greatest rookie seasons in NFL history. Dak went to the playoffs and went toe-to-toe with a legend. Our defense choked in the last moments.
3rd and 20, and by inches, Cook keeps his feet in bounds and makes the catch.
In 2018, Dak had a phenomenal season resulting in his first Pro Bowl year. We finally won a playoff game against Schottenheimer's Seattle Seahawks.
That's what I'm talking about.
The next season, Zeke destroyed the league again, and Dak had a phenomenal season under new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Our defense wasn't that good, but fair's fair.
Starts with a bad snap. That's very disturbing for a quarterback when you got to take your eyes off the field.
Dak and that offense for some reason didn't always click. The Saints, the Patriots, and the Eagles games come to mind. But again, 2019 was just his 4th season. Again, there's a trend here. Dak does better when he has a running game, and particularly an elite running back. In 2016, Dak was 2nd in the league in interception percentages. He was 4th in completion percentages. He was the 3rd most successful quarterback in football. He had the 3rd best passer rating. His ANYA was the 3rd highest in football.
One for the big one. Down the field, wide open.
In 2018, some of those numbers went down, yet he was 4th in interception percentages and top 10 in completion percentages. In 2019, he had the 6th best ANYA statistic, a top 10 passer rating. He was the 2nd most successful quarterback in the league, 4th in touchdowns, and 1st in yards. I think I made a strong case here. Dak with an elite Ezekiel Elliott was a top 3 quarterback in the league in terms of overall success rates for 2 out of those 3 seasons. Again, there's a trend. If Dak has a running game, you will see the best version that Dak has to offer. That has been the consistent value of Dak's career. Yeah, but Dak's best version was in 2023 without a running game. That's not a good argument. Dallas had the easiest schedule in the league in terms of bottom low-ranked defenses. Dak did play great football in 2023, don't get me wrong.
Turpin got it! Touchdown!
But context does matter. Schottenheimer loves to lean on the run and play action passing games to create effective offenses. Over his 3 seasons with the Seahawks, they ranked 6th in run play rate and 8th in play action rate. Additionally, the Seahawks ran the ball on 51.5% of their first downs.
Close enough to call that uncovered. On first down. We'll run it this time, and it is Carlos Hyde and Hyde.
In his career, he's had 5 top 10 rushing offenses in 14 years as an OC. He's been in the top 15 7 of those 14 seasons. Schottenheimer has been in the league since 1997. 12 of those teams that he's been on were top 10 in rushing offense, while 15 of his teams were top 15 in rushing touchdowns. He's either coached in some capacity or was an offensive coordinator on 11 top 10 teams in rushing touchdowns. Schottenheimer has extensive experience in the league, both in observing top designers and in creating outstanding rushing offenses himself. He's arguably the most successful run designer in the National Football League. Oh, and by the way, his father happens to be one of the greatest rushing philosophers in NFL history. So obviously bringing in Schottenheimer is a change in philosophy. A huge change. A culture change. Schottenheimer's connections runs deep. He learned a lot of his era Coryell philosophy from Cam Cameron, which is Marty Schottenheimer's longtime offensive coordinator with the Chargers. Here's the strange part. Cameron is a Norv Turner pupil. Turner gave Cameron his first NFL job down in Washington, D.C. in the 90s, so Schottenheimer is a direct link from the tree of those early Cowboys 90s offenses. Schottenheimer was also around the legendary offensive guru Pete Carmichael, the real architect behind those all-world Sean Payton and Drew Brees-styled Coryell offenses. But here's another loophole. The Cowboys are expected to hire Clayton Adams, the young promising offensive line coach of the Arizona Cardinals, as their next OC. But here's the telling part. The Cardinals offensive coordinator, Drew Petting, does run the West Coast offense as well. However, he does have experience working with a familiar Don Coryell guy, Norv Turner. Petting and Turner worked together in Cleveland during the 2013 season. Now, I'm not saying that Petting ran the Coryell offense in Arizona, especially in the passing game. However, I'm not so sure when it comes to the running game. Petty is definitely a smash-mouth Marty Schottenheimer proponent. Run the ball down your throat is his style. Petty relies on gap schemes with heavy runs.
13 personnel.
first down. DeMercado trying to stretch the outside, broke a tackle to the 5, and DeMercado to...
So the fact that Clayton Adams might be coming to Dallas confirms this even more. Schottenheimer has been around some real juggernauts and evolutionists in the rushing game. Coaches like Tony Soprano, Cam Cameron, Terry Robisky, Mark Tresman, Hugh Jackson, Clarence Selman, Pete Carroll, Dick Vermeil, Al Saunders, and of course Marty Schottenheimer. That's a wealth of knowledge that no coach who is in the open market this year can say they have experienced. And I mean no coach. Schottenheimer is more than capable of this job.
I look forward to working so closely with the entire family in continuing the legacy and tradition of this football team.
This is what we wanted, right? A team that is built to win. And if we look at all of the championships that we've ever played in, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, all the way up to the 90s, we've always had a great running game. That's the culture of the Dallas Cowboys. If this doesn't show that Jones is all in, I'm not sure what will. All right, that's the run game. The passing game is a little more complex. He's only had one top 10 passing offense in his career. 14 years as an OC with just one top 10 passing offense is not good at all. But to be fair, look at his quarterbacks. To even have this rank with them, I think was impressive by itself. If you evaluate him when he's had good quarterbacks, his passing offenses in terms of passing touchdowns are always top 5 in the league.
Ferguson's just going to run right by him, and this is a big-time ball.
He was top 5 with Russell Wilson for 3 years straight. He led the league in passing touchdowns with Dak in 2023. In fact, 4 years out of his last offensive coordinator jobs, he's had a top 5 passing attack in touchdowns. The only one where he didn't have it was in 2024 when Dak went out. Yet he still managed to be 13th in the league. Even with Cooper Rush at the helm, he got rushed to complete 60% of his passes along with 12 touchdowns. He had a low 1.6 interception percentage. Also keep in mind that he was here in 2021. Don't forget that. So he was involved in that phenomenal season that Dak had as well. In fact, Schottenheimer has been involved in Dak's most successful seasons.
Over the middle, fired, caught, CeeDee Lamb!
After I looked at the games and did more research, it all made sense. His style and philosophy is Don Coryell. Don't believe me? Look at what he's ran throughout his tenure as an OC. From 2006 to 2014, he ran an era Coryell offense. So where did the West Coast offense come in play? It wasn't until his Seattle days that he first ran the West Coast offense. However, this wasn't because he changed it himself. It was because it was Pete Carroll's system. Carroll ran the West Coast offense before Schottenheimer arrived. Schottenheimer was such a brilliant offensive coach that he successfully built around a concept that he himself never ran and became one of the best in the league at it.
He's got 7 on first. It's 2nd and 3. Wilson to Eddie Lacy out of the backfield.
Jones hired him because of his extensive knowledge in both concepts, the Air Coryell and the West Coast offenses. Remember, although Kellen Moore had just left, they still kept his concepts and included them in with McCarthy's West Coast offense. They did exactly what Moore is doing now with the Eagles. Although their base offense is the Air Coryell, Moore is still running head coach Nick Sirianni's West Coast offense too. That's why they hired Moore, because of his extensive knowledge in both concepts. Moore ran some forms of the West Coast offense under McCarthy, and he got his Air Coryell offense from Jason Garrett. The base formula of a Kellen Moore offense is a mixture of both the West Coast and Air Coryell offenses. Schottenheimer has similar formulas, but he runs his philosophy entirely different. Schottenheimer's offense will be centered on the Air Coryell passing philosophy. Well, how do I know this? Look at where Seattle was ranked in passing yards in 2018 through 2020. They were ranked 27th in 2018, 14th in 2019, and 16th in 2020. But look at his rank in passing yards per attempt. 6th in 2018, 8th in 2019, and 13th in 2020. So although they weren't elite in terms of passing yards,
Pass to Baldwin, touchdown!
they were elite in explosive yards.
Into the end zone, and Brandon...
When he did throw the ball, he was very aggressive.
And now it's a touchdown!
Look at Seattle's intended air yard pass attempts. They were 5th in 2018, 3rd in 2019, and 9th in 2020. This is evidence that his offenses were attacking down the field vertically, which is Air Coryell at its core. But to prove this even further, look at Seattle's ranking in passing touchdowns. They were 6th in 2018, 4th in 2019, and 5th in 2020. This clearly shows his aggressive philosophy in the passing game. Although he wasn't aggressive in terms of passing attempts, but when he did pass the ball, he was highly efficient in chunk yards and in touchdowns.
He's got separation from Metcalf.
In fact, he was one of the best coordinators in the league. In 2025, there is going to be urgency in the passing offense, trust my word. Again, urgency doesn't necessarily mean more passing attempts. So what do we know so far? His offense in Seattle, which was quote-unquote a West Coast offense, he wasn't elite in passing yards attempts, but he was elite in intended air yard pass attempts, which are aggressive passes horizontally down the field. He was elite in passing touchdowns as well, yet 70% of his yards on offense came on the ground, not in the air. So how did he throw his passes? We know that his passes were in chunk yards in both vertical and horizontally. But here's another interesting fact. Seattle was 8th in play action pass in 2019 and 10th in play action pass in 2020. It's unfortunate that we don't have the numbers for his 2018 season, but I'm sure he would have been top 10 in play action pass as well that year.
Wilson to the corner, a touchdown!
His father was one of the greatest play action signal callers in history.
There's a gleam, men! There's a gleam!
So the play action pass is rooted in his DNA. Hopefully you're starting to see the picture here. He ran a traditional Air Coryell offense with a West Coast flavor. In other words, he mashed the two concepts together.
Good protection again. Throwing Mel Gray is down there. Touchdown.
Keep in mind that the West Coast flavor is not your traditional West Coast offense. This should remind you of something else. Norv Turner and Ernie Zampese's offenses of the 90s.
One of our keys is being balanced, but hopefully our strength is that they're not sure to play run or pass.
Need I remind you that Turner received his philosophy from Ernie Zampese.
We want to continue to move, not pull the route up. We do not want to pull the route up. The thing that happens, and in San Diego we built so much around what Dan Fouts' abilities were. Dan Fouts' guy's going to get back and the ball is gone. I'm not going to hold that damn football. He doesn't drop very deep. So if you're not going to drop very deep, you're going to throw the football quickly. Throw it quickly. There are times that you're throwing it blind. There's big, tall people up in front of you. There are times you're throwing it blind, so we wanted to make sure that he knew that receiver was going to continue to move and not stop.
And Ernie Zampese's received his philosophy from Don Coryell himself during his days with the Chargers. Now, please allow me to compare for context reasons. I'm not saying this is true, but Kellen Moore was basically your Norv Turner. Moore ran the Air Coryell, but he was more of a passing signal caller. He was going to always be in the top 10 in passing yards, while Schottenheimer is your Zampese, who focused on efficiency, time clock management, and running the football. Under Norv Turner in 1992, Dallas was top 4 in rushing attempts. In 1993, they were 6th in the league. But look at Zampese's offenses in his first 2 seasons as the OC. He led the league in attempts in 94 and was 4th in 1995. Look at his passing attempts. From 1994 to 1995, his teams were at the bottom of the league. Turner's offenses fluctuated, while Zampese's offenses stayed consistently true. Run the ball and pass less. But when you do pass, be highly efficient, aggressive, and have urgency.
Aikman throws. There he is again. Novacek. 40 and out of bounds.
Look at how aggressive Aikman was in 1994 and in 1995. He was 2nd and 3rd in the league in passing yards per attempt. To move the point further, in 95, although Aikman ranked at the bottom of the league in passing attempts and just 13th in passing yards, that wasn't because Aikman wasn't good. He was deadly efficient in what Zampese's wanted him to do. Look at his completion percentages. He was 2nd in the league. He was rated as the 2nd most successful quarterback in football. So what was he asked to do? Get the ball to Jay Novacek and Michael Irvin in chunk yardage. Novacek and Michael Irvin caught the ball almost 70% of the time that Aikman threw it to them. 70% of the time is crazy. If you look at the top 10 receivers in yards in 94, Irvin was ranked 3rd in yards per reception. It was the same in 95 among your top 7 receivers in yards. Look at this stat. Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek were the only wide receiver tight end tandem in the entire league that year who were top 10 in success rate, which means they were the most successful tandem in the league. Yes, Aikman was at the bottom of the league in yards, but his receiver was 4th in yards and top 10 in touchdowns, while his tight end was 2nd in the league among other tight ends in touchdowns. Just because a quarterback doesn't throw a lot of yards or passes doesn't mean that he's not elite. He could be highly efficient in the scheme of his offense. If the offensive philosophy is good, that efficient quarterback will make that philosophy even better. As much as I love Moore, Dak Prescott made Moore's philosophy better. What happened when Moore took his philosophy to the Chargers? Justin Herbert had his worst year of his career.
First sack of the night. Herbert gets rid of it and he's picked.
And to be honest, Hurts hasn't been successful either in Moore's offense as a passer. In 2024, he's had his lowest success rate since 2021. Meanwhile, Dak in Moore's system was one of the most successful quarterbacks in the league. I'm not saying that Moore's system was bad, because obviously it's not. But unlike the other quarterbacks, Dak made his system better.
Giants over the middle. Here he is again. Going deep, going for the end zone. It is caught.
Although Wilson wasn't a successful passer like Aikman, he still was elite. He was top 10 in passing success rates 2 times out of 3 years with Schottenheimer. Look at this stat. From 2018 to 2020, Wilson had 25 touchdowns for 24 yards or longer. But to be fair, Dak did miss the majority of 2020 season, and in 2019 and 2021, he had 11 combined touchdowns for 24 yards out or longer. Dak would have had to go historical in 2020 to catch Wilson's numbers. That's how dynamic the Seattle passing offense was, although they wasn't elite in passing attempts. Schottenheimer's offense is not your typical West Coast. It's more of an aggressive air Coryell concept that uses the run to set up the play action for deep passes vertically and horizontally. The West Coast offense throws short passes to set up the deep ball, but mostly horizontally. So what gives Schottenheimer's offense a West Coast flavor? It's his on-the-move routes. Schottenheimer's receivers love to stay moving. Typically, you'll find routes such as spear routes, routes that have multiple options like the drive concept. The drive concept can break out into multiple routes depending on the coverage. Typically, shallow drag routes will be paired with a dig route. If the coverage is zone, the drag routes can turn into a hook route so that the receiver can sit inside the soft spots of the zone coverage. If it's man, then you'll mostly see the receiver dragging his route across the field. Another concept that we will see more is the combo routes or spear routes. Spear routes are seen as clear out patterns. So typically you'll have 2 pattern posts from one side and a deep crossover from the other side, spearing one another in order to clear out for the deep pass. Most of the time these routes are built off the run and play action. There's a lot of concepts that we can go into. The hiring of Schottenheimer gives me a 100% guarantee that if Genty is there at 12, we are getting the next great back in Cowboys history. I'll leave you with that. As Cowboys fans, we are living in interesting times. Until next time, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.